When most people think of a gaming setup, it's often pictures with lots of RGB and neon lights. And while that's completely fine, I just wanted to put together a setup that was minimal, clean, and a little versatile, especially because I have a growing interest in tech setups and gaming. So I wanted a dedicated gaming setup that is separate from where I work to test out new tech and explore new games. And that's why I'm so excited to show you my minimalist gaming setup and all 8 of my favorite gaming accessories. Off the bat, this is an all-in-one gaming setup, and what I mean is that this is a setup for both my PC and gaming console, starting with the desk. This is still the Hayworth upside standing desk in black. Now, I've talked about this desk previously on my channel, and I haven't changed it because, well, I have no need to. This thing is solid with an anti-collision feature that helps protect the top of the desk and all of the devices on it as well. The main reason why I love this desk is because it can go really low with a minimum height of 27.4 inches. And if you've seen my previous video with the racing sim, then you know that this is where I race as well. While it's not the ideal setup, it is super helpful that I can still get my monitor this low to match with my wheel in the racing sim. I also really love the minimal design of the paddle controller. However, this version isn't the programmable one, but if you are interested in getting a desk like this, I suggest getting the programmable controller, which allows you to save your height preferences as presets easily. This tabletop is so solid that I have my PlayStation 5 mounted underneath it to keep things organized and to have it within reach for when I want a more relaxed gaming session. I have also learned that with black surfaces like these, I will always have to clean them to keep them both fingerprint and dust free. I am so glad that I installed wheels here because this table is so heavy and it isn't very easy to move around without wheels. So putting it on wheels really helps me move this around whenever I need more space to film in this room. Next, of course, is the monitor, which is the LG 32GS95UE. It is a 32-inch OLED monitor with a super interesting button underneath it that allows you to go from 4K 240Hz to 1080p 480Hz. That is an insane bump in FPS as long as you have an equally capable PC to push through those frames. I already made a detailed video on this monitor, so if you are interested, I'll link that video in the description below. And I have this monitor mounted to the Ergotron LX monitor mount, which I got ages ago. It is perfect because it allows quite a flexible amount of movement and is heavy duty because it can hold monitors up to 34 inches. But if you have a larger screen, like a 38 or a 49-inch monitor, then this isn't the best option for you. And in that case, I'd recommend the Ergotron HX monitor arm, which is what I have holding up my larger 40-inch monitor over on my second desk setup. One thing I personally like about the LX monitor arm is that the stand is all the way to the side of the desk, creating this really clean floating monitor look. I will admit that these monitor arms are quite pricey and one of those buy ones, cry ones type of purchases. Now, this is my baby, my custom-built tiny PC. Since I built my first PC a couple of years ago in the NR200P, I have fallen in love with small form factor PCs. I love pre-planning all the parts I'd use for the build, and believe it or not, working around all of the limitations that are involved in building a PC this small. In fact, I initially built this PC with a 240mm radiator, but then decided to switch to air cooling with this interesting 3D printed mod, which was inspired by another YouTuber called Aga. This is an exhaust shroud for the formed T1 with these extrusions that help improve airflow by pulling out the hot air from the CPU cooler's heatsink. Now, I've made slight modifications to this design to accommodate for the height of my RAM sticks. In this PC, we have an RTX 4090, the AMD Ryzen 7800 X3D, which in my opinion is the best CPU for gaming, with 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM, 6 terabytes of SSD, 3 fans, all powered by this 750 watt PSU in the formed T1 case. I've also got another build on the way in a case that I've been wanting to try out, and that's for a PC that is more focused on productivity and creative work. Okay, I'm having way too much fun talking about this PC. I think I'll make a dedicated video on this build to share a lot of the changes and its performances as well. Let me know if that's something that you want to see in the comment section below. Now, moving on to the microphone. And you might be wondering why I have a microphone here. This is because at some point, I'd love to start streaming some of my favorite games here. Honestly, I just haven't found the time yet, but it is something that I'm excited to try. This microphone is the Logitech Blue Sonar, and out of the box, it has a really good sound with no EQ needed. One thing I'll say about microphones, having bought a ton of them to eventually find the ones that I like, is that everybody has a different tone of voice. So finding a microphone that sort of works with your voice is super important. I really like the fact that this microphone doesn't need any kind of amplifier or FET head to boost the audio. The Logitech Blue Sonar is connected to this Rode Streamer X interface. Now, this is quite an interesting device which completely replaced my Elgato Camlink setup because it's both a capture card and an audio interface all in one. This is what the camera footage recorded with the Streamer X looks like. Now, this device streamlined all of the wires and connections that I had previously going into the back of my PC and made cable management way easier. I intentionally do not have any camera mounted here because, well, it's usually mounted at my second desk where I make most of my short form content. But whenever I need that here, all I do is move the camera over, pull out the dummy battery that I have connected underneath my desk, mount the stand, and then connect my camera. It's barely an inconvenience. One thing that is super important to note with the Streamer X, especially if you game with IEMs like I do, is that, well, I hear a lot of white noise. Now, this isn't something that goes into the audio recorded, but it is definitely something that I can hear when I'm not playing anything. I'm not sure how to fix this, and honestly, it is slightly annoying. So if you have any suggestions, I'd love to read them in the comments. But speaking of IEMs, this is the Sennheiser IE300. And while I know that IEMs are a deep rabbit hole within the audio and gaming community, I'm pretty satisfied with how this sounds. The first IEMs I tried mainly for gaming was the KZ-ZS10 Pros, which are alright for a sub $50 IEM. My only gripe with the ZS10 Pros was that I found that the default sound profile was a little too sharp and slightly unbalanced. I mainly noticed that while playing Call of Duty. But don't get me wrong, the ZS10 Pros have a really good soundstage, but I found that the overall tone, balance, and soundstage of the Sennheiser IE300 was perfect for my use case. By the way, I am not an audiophile, and I'm only speaking from personal experience. Moving on to the other peripherals, this is my gaming keyboard of choice, the Wooting 60HE. Now, I love the 60% form factor of this keyboard specifically for gaming only, because when it comes to typing, I much prefer the 65% keyboard layout for a better typing experience. I got the Wooting 60HE mainly because of its rapid trigger switches. But I've had no reason to upgrade this because I appreciate the software updates and improvements from Wooting. Especially their recent updates, including something called SOC, which simply put, and I know that I'm oversimplifying here, is being able to counter strafe without any overlap. Basically spamming your AD keys or any other two keys on your keyboard without any delay. There's this whole shebang on the internet regarding whether this feature is considered cheating or not, especially in games like CSGO and Counter-Strike. Now, as someone who originally started playing games on a console, PC gaming feels entirely different, especially with a keyboard and mouse. And this keyboard is great for playing first-person shooter games like Valorant, Shatterline, and X-Defiant, which I've been playing a lot of lately. However, I do not like the way it looks, and I'm considering modding this in the future, but for now, it gets the job done. As for my mouse, I'm often switching between two now, the OG Logitech Super Light and the Razer Viper V3 Pro, which I recently picked up. Now, off the bat, they feel really similar in a hand, but I will say that I love the contour on the Viper V3 Pro where my fingers rest, and the clicks feel a lot better as well. These are both resting on the Artisan Ninja X mousepad with medium hardness. I tried a couple of mouse pads in the past, but I never really liked any of them. But the Artisan Ninja was the one that felt the most comfortable to use and also allows a decent amount of mouse gliding. That's it. This is my clean and minimal gaming setup in 2024. I will link all items in the description below for anyone who's interested. And that being said, I'll catch you in the next video.